Every prospect needs a coach and every program needs a leader. How guys get to the NFL is completely affected by who they play for, and that has started. Domino number one has fallen. It seems like now it's all going to be a roller coaster. We're going to get into what the coaching changes mean to this draft class and those that are coming, as well as get into Aiden Hutchinson and figure out exactly where he is now on the depth chart. I'm hearing all kinds of movement for him. Welcome to Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On NFL Draft. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, I am joined by my guy, Ryan Tracy. And we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And I mean, we're diving straight into it, man. Probably, you guys know, the biggest news that I've seen to kind of happen to the West Coast in a really long time. And we'll talk about the ramifications of it. But Lincoln Riley, he's leaving the OU to head to USC, to Sunshine State, California. When you heard this news, and I'll give all my thoughts on this, but what were your initial thoughts?
Just like how many guys are going to go with him. We hear now that some of the coaching staff, but it's all about the quarterbacks, right? And we also found out Spencer Rattler gonna transfer. We talked about that earlier in the season. We thought that was the best.
It ain't gonna be the USC.
No, there ain't no room. There's not enough chairs for the musical chairs dance that's going on at USC right now. Spencer, go elsewhere. East Coast sounds like a good home for you. Maybe Clemson could use some help. I don't know. Just figure something out. But that's the thing is, like, you got two quarterbacks there. Rattler can play around the country. Obviously, Kevin, do you stay there after what was a really hot start and a pretty good cool off for the freshman quarterback? Do you follow the coach to a school that already has two starting caliber quarterbacks and another one committed, as I understand? I haven't seen any tape on any high school kids, so I can't make that for certain. But it is a congested thing that affects not just this class, but the next class and the class after that. What do you think goes on with Lincoln Riley in this program?
I mean, this makes all the difference in the world, and how the West Coast is just kind of perceived with football, how USC has been. You know, I've been really down on Pac-12 football. First of all, I grew up more of like a Miami Hurricane fan. You know, It's like, how could you not be a fan growing up early 2000s, late 90s, where you have just all these star-studded receivers every year: Santana Moss, Sonoris Moss, Andre Johnson, Kellen Wentz. I mean, just the list goes on and on. McGahee at running back, Frank Gore. I mean, watching Sean Taylor, RIP, Ed Reed, Antrell Rowe. I mean, the list goes on and on with just the caliber of players that they had that I was intrigued with. So I grew up watching that. And when I got to college, I went to college in Arkansas in the South, and I realized they don't like us West Coast guys. Like, they think we are not good at football on the West Coast. They think we're soft. One of my coaches, I remember coach was saying, "Man, Crocker, I thought you was going to be one of them surfer boys." And I'm like, "Surf? I've never even been to the beach. Like, what are you talking about?" So, then that's when I was like, all right, I'm rooting for the Pac-12 and USC. That's the big dog. Come on, USC, let's go. Carry the West Coast for us. And they've fallen off big time, whether it was the sanctions after Pete Carroll left. You had the Lane Kiffin time. They just haven't really been able to rebound from all of that. And now you get a guy like Lincoln Riley in there. This is the biggest hire in probably USC's history, in the sense of, like, going to get this guy, right? Because there was Pete Carroll, but Pete Carroll wasn't like a big dog. He was kind of a rebound from the NFL. He wasn't their first choice. Lincoln Riley, he's everybody's first choice right now that have the job openings. And I just never thought. I had got a phone call before it all went down, and my guy was like, "Hey, man, I'm hearing Lincoln Riley in the next 48 hours is gonna go get hired by USC." I'm like, "Man, get out of here, man. He ain't leaving. He ain't leaving the South." I'm like, and they got LSU wide open. They got that job open. Like, you go to LSU before you go to USC, just because I know how much more football means in the South and what they're willing to do, break a little bit of rule, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, literally 30 minutes later, the news dropped.
Mm.
And I was shocked. And I think the biggest thing was, like you said, what's going to happen with all the recruits, and not just recruits, the guys that are currently in place, the draft prospects. You have Jackson Dart, and he's a young guy, and we'll see what happens with him. But I mean, you have Keaton Slovis there, and Slovis was he was a potential draft pick in this year's class. Now, obviously, this year didn't go as well, so I'm pretty sure he was going to come back. But now you have a quarterback that a coach coming in, potentially bringing Seth Williams with him. You got the 5-star commit from Southern California. He's coming now. And I mean, I have my Edison shirt on right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my guy, Raleigh Brown. Raleigh, he was a 5-star running back. I coached him. He was one of my defensive backs as well. And he ended up transferring over to Mater Dei to finish up his high school career. One of the top running backs in the nation. Well, he was committed to OU. Yeah. He decommitted already, and it looks like he's heading to USC.
It's been 5 minutes and a cup of coffee. I'm out of here.
Oh, man. Like, that's how quick this changes. And I'm curious to see if other guys, that are draft eligible, maybe a Drake London, does he think staying another year improves his draft stock? What about Drake Jackson? What about Drake Jackson?
Right. Yeah.
Do they think that, hey, maybe coming back, doing something again, can he bring something? I mean, because Lincoln Riley, we're talking about him and Hollywood Brown, CeeDee Lamb, they have Mims kind of coming along right now over there. OU, they have guys that they've been like kind of developing and pushing out and
well, how many quarterbacks have they had in the last 10 years, right? It's a train coming out of there, right? Yeah. But for me, like all that said, this shifts the balance as well. Because I'll bet you this is going to uncover some diamonds in the rough, right? Because the SEC is stacked. If I'm Lincoln Riley and I'm looking at going to the SEC to compete for recruiting against all of those teams, this makes sense. I think not only does this swing the power away from the SEC a little bit, it's not going to be a huge thing at first, but I think it's going to pull some talent. It's going to make the Pac-12 stronger. It's going to balance out the two coasts a little bit. But I think also it's going to see opportunities because I think they're going to hire more progressive coaches, more aggressively hiring more coaches from, say, the SEC, from staffs. And then you're going to get some transfers that maybe we don't even know right about because we haven't seen them on the field yet because they're stuck on a depth chart. There's going to be guys from Alabama that say, I can go out west and play. Why wouldn't I?
Right. Did you see what he was given as far as a contract, what was reported so far?
I did not. I didn't want to cry today.
Oh, man. So Lincoln Riley, let me find it. My buddy put it out there. I got to find it. So, I mean, it was $110 million. And they gave him full access. Let me pull up the tweet right now. I mean, this is just incredible. So Lincoln Riley, USC contract details, $110 million. USC is buying both of his homes that were in Norman, Oklahoma for $500,000 over the asking price. So he's getting a bonus $1 million there. Buying him a house in LA for a $6 million home, buying him a $6 million home in LA. And he has unlimited use of the private jet 24/7 for his family. So anytime he wants to hop on a private jet that USC has, he's able to do it and can go wherever with his family. That's a sweet deal,
Carroll, right?
I was wondering what it would take to be able to get a coach of that caliber from the South with options to be able to go to like an LSU or something. How are you going to get him to the West Coast? I see how they did it, man. I see how they did it. And speaking of beaches, man, we got in life right now, we are all bound for different things. With beachbound.com vacations, you could be bound for an adventure, just like Lincoln Riley, right? Bound for passion, bound for jets where he's flying, all right? We might not be able to hop on private flights to this, wherever you're going with the beach, but you're bound for immersion, bound for rejuvenation, or you may be bound for encountering the unexpected. Again, Lincoln Riley, $110 million in SoCal. Wow, that was very unexpected. Personally, when I'm at a beach resort, I'm bound to end up poolside at a bar and maybe creating my own, taco flight or cocktail. As long as I've got a good view and a good drink in my hand, I'll be as happy as can be. With beachbound.com, you can find the perfect beach vacation for you. And no matter what you're looking for, they got it, man. So what are you bound for? Visit beachbound.com today. Well, there's another coach that's changing where he's going to be at. There aren't really beaches in this area, but you got Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to head to LSU. That was a shocker. I mean, I'm like, what is going on in college football right now, and what does it mean for these prospects? Real quick, we're going to get into Brian Kelly and him transferring, but when you're a prospect, you're a pro football prospect, and you're having all these changes, how does that has to hurt you, right? You're heading into your senior year or you're heading into your draft eligible year, and all of a sudden the guys that brought you there, we know how recruiting can get. They brought you there, they care about you. If they didn't, you better be a stud, or they might bring in guys to replace you. So if you are at LSU and you're a top prospect, are you potentially thinking about hitting that transfer portal?
I think you have to, right? I mean, Eli Ricks already did, right?
Oh, Eli Ricks.
I think Eli knew something we didn't know a little bit ago. This is tough. You're brought in there to play a role in a specific, in this case, a defense, right? That you expect coming. I think it's really intriguing that you're getting top programs, teams that have been at the top of college football, like Oklahoma now going to USC, like Notre Dame now coming down to LSU. I think it's really intriguing there, but I do think that it promotes more speciality, more program-specific scheme, recruiting traits, and I think it's going to leave a number of players, because I think the higher profile coach that you bring in, the more change you're going to have so that you can adapt to, quote-unquote, his system. So how does that leave DBU now, losing a top corner, having another get drafted? We all expect Stingley will be gone. So yeah. It leaves you in a spot where not only are you losing the talent, you might be losing what's been your legacy, in that you're shifting away from some of the defensive principles, going towards something that might be a lot different in the future for you as a program. What does that do to recruiting? What does that do to the next draft class? I think it's really intriguing that we're going to have to really monitor all this stuff.
You talked about Elias Ricks, and you talked about, even the next draft class, and he's not draft eligible this year, but he's one of the top cornerbacks in the nation. And they actually call him Pick Six Ricks. I actually watched him in high school when he was playing for Mater Dei. He had 3 pick sixes in one game, right? In a playoff game at that. Now, he ended up going to IMG, I believe it was, for his last year, and was able to enroll early at LSU. But this is a guy who had started since day one, or had definitely a role in starting, played alongside Stingley this year, missed some time. I think there was some injuries kind of mixed in there, but next year, this is going to be a big time prospect. And Brian Kelly coming into this new situation, still mind blowing that he left Notre Dame, but Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU, and now he's already losing some of his top prospects. And I have to assume that this is happening, just the influx of guys transferring, because now you don't have to sit out a year, right? Do you think that has a big impact on guys just say, man, forget this, I'm heading into transfer portal the moment something doesn't go quite their way?
Yeah, like the magic window you can jump through to get to a different situation, right? I think what we're going to see is, in my estimation, is going to be kind of an onslaught of this. Like, something went wrong, something that makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to jump. I think a year or two from now, we're going to see that kind of slow down a little bit. Because I think what people are going to find is that, yes, you can get out of a situation that you didn't see coming in your current school, but you're also jumping into a whole unknown world. You're jumping into a coaching staff that's just going there as you might be going there, right? So if you're trying to jump on a train of somebody who's got a new coach at a new school, yes, it might be intriguing. It might be harder than you think to make those adjustments and still maintain your level of play on the field. So I think you'll find that will slow down in the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, man. And with LSU, they've kind of been, I don't know, it's weird. I mean, we're talking about a school that just 2 years ago was one of the most explosive offenses ever. And they had one of the best collegiate years ever. I mean, and they just ran through everybody, destroyed everybody. And the fall from grace was so fast. They lost some top prospects. Obviously, Joe Burrow, he had a big hand in kind of the change there. Maybe they're thinking, maybe LSU, it's like, man, that was a one-off. Joe Burrow, he had a magical year with some terrific top prospects that are now killing it in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, one of the best young receivers right now, had 1,400 yards last year. Obviously, still doing his thing this year. 49ers were happy to hold him to 83 receiving yards. All right, then you have Jamar Chase, who he's nearing 1,000 yards on the season. He started off really hot. It's kind of cooled down just a little bit. Last 4 games, hasn't been able to eclipse 50 yards receiving, but he's doing well. And they went from that to just, happy to win the game the other day. They had a comeback win. I don't even know if they're at 500, but you got Ed Oregon, and he's like, all right, man, I'm out of here. Did you see him at the press conference? Did you see that when he left? He was like, all right, go Tigers.
I did.
Let's go, babe.
Got it.
He was like, go Tigers. Let's go, babe. And then he hops up, grabs his girl and his family, and they walk out. And but
he's fishing for marlin right now. He's happy as a clam.
Yeah. I'm curious to see just, again, we talk about the pro prospects, and those are the guys, all this stuff is fun to talk about, and Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly and the new guys, the influx of players and the transferring, the moving around that we're going to see. But what happens to the guys right now that are pro prospects or about to be draft eligible the following year? I think those are the guys that I feel for the most.
Yeah, the sophomores right now, that just everything is unsure. They have to make that decision. Do I want to stay here now, where the coach that I came to play for is no longer here?
Yeah. Money, man, when we get back, man, we are going to get back to a current player in this draft class who is just tearing it up. We got a little bit more insight on this guy. We talked about him yesterday. We're going to get right back to it. Aiden Hutchinson. Is he the best prospect in this class? I don't know if I bet on it, but if you are going to bet on it, BetOnline has you covered for all this season's props, odds, and lines, and more than ever before, especially for this football season, which continues to march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head over right now to the new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to receive that bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, you don't have to wait to take advantage of this amazing offer, and it's available throughout the 2021 season. So BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. It's BetOnline, where the games start. Speaking of BetOnline, I actually used BetOnline this weekend, and Ohio State, they kind of lost me a little money, man. I put a couple hundred down on them. I said, well, okay, Ohio State minus 7. And I'm like, they're only -7 because they're in Michigan. Like, oh, man, they're going to – I've seen this story before. I've seen this story where Michigan has the good defense, and obviously they want to run the ball. And but Ohio State comes in, they got the Howard Power offense, and they just blow them out. And I just thought it was going to be the same story. It clearly wasn't. That running back Michigan has, that's what we need to talk about. We will talk about him moving forward, but had a running back. Can't think of his name right now, but number 25, believe he's a senior. He ran extremely well. He did a really good job of just the vision and stuff. We're going to get to him probably on the next episode, but it's all about Aiden Hutchinson right now and how his draft stock just continues to rise. I've seen people talking about that performance from against Ohio State, where he had 3 sacks and really was just, wreaking havoc. And almost on 4th down had that pass breakup near the end zone. They ended up catching it. I believe they ran it in for a touchdown. But, that would have been a game-changing play. Just his ability to kind of sink back and get in that passing lane. He's so aware of everything that's going on. So whether it's rushing the passer and affecting the passing game that way, dropping in the coverage, or what he does against the run, this is a guy who, again, is creeping up more and more on draft boards. It was like, okay, yeah, top 10 pick. Awesome. Then it's like, well, is it a top 5 pick? Okay, we're seeing that. And then it's like, dang, is he potentially the number 1 overall pick? What kind of things are you hearing about Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan?
I'm hearing stuff all over the place. And y'all heard me on yesterday's show say that I did move him over Thibodeau as my number 1 edge. I don't have him number 1 overall. I'm not ready to go there. I kind of feel like maybe the edge class, because Thibodeau's been out in front for so long, has maybe been, as a group, as a positional group, been a little bit overrated, a little bit artificially inflated. So I want to see if something sneaks in there. Could there be a wide receiver that makes an impact? Could there be another high-end defensive player that sneaks in there ahead of time? I'm not certain. But I'm hearing things from mid-teens all the way up to number 1 overall. And It's going to be a long road to figure that how this shakes out between those two players in particular, but how it ranks again with a weaker quarterback class, with somebody waiting to stand out. And I think as we sit right here, conference championships coming up, right? We got that and we got the playoff. We got some bowl games. If somebody makes a big stick, if Garrett Wilson goes off in this next game or two, if we see, I can't imagine one of the Georgia defensive guys, because they're such a well-defined unit and because there's so many playmakers on that, I can't see one of them standing out enough to jump up to number one, especially when there's so many of those guys. But who knows what's going to happen? I think that this opens the door for more discussion and more variation between the way the scouts are going to look at it.
All right, so a couple things right here on our Aiden Hutchinson that we're talking about right now. Defensive end from University of Michigan. PFF, they have him as the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So obviously he's receiving some big-time honors, and I don't think that's anything that's, too out of nowhere, out of the ordinary. We were kind of expecting that. But here's some more things. One, he's potentially a finalist for the Heisman. All right. PFF also has him as the new number one prospect in the upcoming draft. So he's clearly moving up. I'm seeing clips of him just bulldozing left tackles from Ohio State. And I believe this is the NFL. I want to say NFL, not NFL mock draft, but they have the draft machine, the Draft Network. The Draft Network has him going number one overall to the Detroit Lions. So
little hometown discount there.
Little hometown discount. I don't think it's just us that's extremely high on this guy and what he is. And again, like we talked about yesterday, I compared it to the whole Nick Bosa and Josh Allen type thing, and I think we're seeing that again, where maybe one player might just be a little bit more complete, and he showed he has the big time ability to do a little bit of everything, as opposed to one guy who, I don't want to say he's a one trick pony, but he's clearly more dominant in one area as opposed to being an overall edge. And obviously I'm talking about Kayvon Thibodeau there. We compared the two guys a little bit. Are you comfortable with potentially just saying, all right, yeah, Hutchinson's just the best? He's the best defensive player in his class.
I'm comfortable he's in the conversation.
Yeah.
I think honestly the complication between having such a diversity, it's not just the two of them head to head. If they were clearly the best two, maybe this would be an easier decision. But Stingley's a tough one because of how good he's played, but how little he's played. And so can you balance that? Is there recency bias because I've seen these guys on the field in the last couple of weeks, right? You have to take that into account. Clearly, I don't think that Kyle Hamilton's had the overall season that he was hoping for. But again, as a guy that's kind of the eraser at the back that makes up for a lot of other things, it's not quite as easy to judge and compare a safety's output versus somebody that gets to rush the passer 30 times a game. So I'm gonna leave my decision up for right now, but I think that those four guys are all in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And cornerback, I mean, that's just such an impactful position. It's crazy, man. We're talking about these, top picks, and we're not talking about the quarterback position. And I think that's saying a lot about maybe some of the talent. And remember, I mean, it wasn't too long ago where, was it Daniel Jeremiah, I believe it was, that said that his buddy said that the whole top 10 last year would go before any of these guys. I don't know. Aiden Hutchinson keep playing like this, his buddy might have to kind of rethink what he was saying. But we're going to think more about all that and more prospects coming up. I want to get into some running backs maybe on tomorrow's show, talk about the Michigan running back that was playing very well. Maybe the running back on the other side of the ball, Ohio State, who didn't have as big of a game as we like. But we're going to get all that and more. Keep it locked right here. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And after you listen to this, go ahead, listen to Locked On Chiefs with our guy Ryan Tracy. Listen to Locked On 49ers with myself and Brian Peacock. But until next time, we're out. Peace.